Okay, so it is, at the time of filming, Sunday, June 5th, which means I have absolutely missed May. I kind of just had my head down and was doing a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden it was June. So, yeah. My spouse reminded me, he's like, yeah, just do a garden tour whenever you feel like enough has changed. I was like, I don't know if enough has changed. And then I looked at the May time lapse and I went, oh, okay, so a lot changed. And then I looked at the April garden tour and I went, oh. So yeah, no, really, a lot's changed. So my bad. But we're going to do your belated May garden tour. I do know we're into June, but it's only 5 days, so close enough. And then I'll give you a June tour later this month when more change has happened. So, if you wanted to see like what work was done through May, absolutely check out the May time lapse. That is the bulk of the garden tasks that were completed as they were completed. It's about 16-ish minutes long, so it's not a huge dedication to time, but would give you a good overview of what all went down. So, yeah, recommending that. And we are going to go ahead and get started with the belated May tour. So some differences right out of the gate is that the last time we were in here, all of the tomatoes were maybe a foot tall. These silver slicers were similarly about where those first leaves are. And this glacier tomato, the one in back in particular, is starting to bear fruit. Same thing with this Philomeno's plum. And then I've got mini-me F1 cucumbers there. I did trim back the chives. I've got those dehydrating. And then that kale, I had actually cut down early this spring, and it decided it wanted to come back. And so I get a surprise tasty treat. Some of the basils are climbing up higher, and my replacement sunrise determinate tomatoes are starting to make the climb as well. Purple Heart, also determinate, that's climbing up. I have that pruned pretty heavily for airflow on its leaves, but I did leave any fruit-bearing portions of the plant. There's my other chive plant. That's been squished down as well, dehydrating. This nasturtium has been really helpful. Maybe not this one in particular. Oh yeah, right here. So you can see there's aphids here. Nasturtiums are a trap plant, so they attract the aphids instead of it going to my tomatoes. The other thing that's working really well here, honestly better than I expected, is these cucamelons are doing a really good job for the most part. This guy's trailing down here, of climbing up the tomato plants. So I've got some here, and notice the ones further in the back are a little bit shorter, even though they were started about the same time. You can see way back there and up here, so everything closer to the aisle is growing taller. That might be the heat of this stone, it might be more sun, better airflow, could be any number of things. The whole reason for putting the cucamelons up the tomatoes is so that I am making the most of the space I have. So where the tomatoes are planted, I am getting 2 crops instead of just the tomatoes. So underneath each tomato is cucamelons as well as basil. And I did a couple different sowings of basil so I could have more than one crop of basil. One of those was bred in Africa, so I'm hoping it will perform better in the greenhouse. Ooh, that is a big spider. Ooh. Stay over there, little buddy. He can perform his pest control up against the greenhouse wall as long as he is out of my space and over there. You can see the little white flecks. Those are the eggshells. I talk about that in the fertilizer video. So if you're not sure what's going on there, go ahead and give that a check out. Got several ants in here, which I'm less fond of, but... So I cut back the wonderberries pretty heavily because the wonderberries are not what I was dedicating this space in the greenhouse bed to. I rather wanted okra instead. It doesn't help if the wonderberries are shading out the okra. Down here is an okra plant, and here is another one. So you can see it pretty well over here. Those are the same kind of okra. The one over on the left is a little bit larger than the one on the right, mostly because the one on the right was shaded out. So he was having a hard time getting enough sun. When I looked back on the April greenhouse tour, these stabby tomatoes were only this big, and now they are, the one in back is about up to my hip level, so they're certainly getting very tall. Leeks are flowering. I haven't seen these flower, and I can save the seed from them, so I'm going to let it happen. Over here I have new chives, some beans starting to climb up here. Those should be the yard-long beans. That'll look really neat. I also planted a second sowing of cucamelons so they can work their way up as well. And then I've got a couple different soybeans starting up here, as well as this watermelon that's starting to vine up. I need to twirl him around the twine some more. Ooh, but you can see he's grabbing on. So that's pretty cool. Just help him along. These are my elderberry cuttings, trying to get them to take root. I still need to tidy up this corner. I just haven't had a lot of time, free time that wasn't already allocated to something else to do it. All of those are clean. Go me, one task down. These guys still need to go someplace. I have not worked that out yet. Moving to the south bed, I did take a bunch of those little Johnny jump ups out. There's still one way down there. This nasturtium has been really good. So is my mini rose. And then here are all of my hot peppers. All the way over here. So I've got a couple different kinds. I ended up with some extra pepper seedlings because I had prepared in case my peppers were taken out by that bacterial or fungal infection earlier. So in this corner I ended up with extra jalapenos. These are the variegated jigsaw hot peppers, so I was very excited not to lose these because I don't have a whole lot of variegation going on this year with my plantings, and those look super nice. And then I've got some hot peppers. These are pepperoncinis, so these are going to be really colorful, really pretty. I have some serranos. Those are pretty tall. I've got a tam jalapeno, more jalapenos, my winter savory that I just trimmed back pretty heavily and dehydrated a whole bunch of. More evidence of my nasturtiums doing their job and being a good pest control system. Then I've got, what are you? Sugar Rush peach. Got a dog right in the way, but she's sure cute. And then I've got lemon drop hot peppers. This is that pink banana squash, and it just keeps going. So that is up to my chest height on me right now, which is thrilling for me. The pink banana squash is the vegetable that I have been trying to grow for several years, and it's elusive. Hoping under the shelter of the greenhouse it's able to come to fruition, because I would really like to see a pink vegetable. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm ready. Very ready. I'm not sure if any of the flowers so far are fruiting. They are. Oh, I'm excited. Okay, so the way you know if it's a male flower or a female flower is actually underneath the flower. So these are straight, which means that they are the male flowers. They provide the pollen to the female flowers, which will become the fruit. So male flower, male flower. But this one is a female. See how it's starting to expand? So that's my first fruit. This one is my tobacco jasmine. In a weird twist of fate, this one is not as excited as the one outside. When we get to the main garden bed, I'll show you that one. It's already got a flower. This one's just starting to bloom. Here I've got my rosemary, some blooming chamomile, some feverfew down here, calendula, which is so soft. This I use in salves. It's good for skincare. It speeds up cell regeneration. It's also really good for pollinators, and it's edible. Moving on to eggplants. So I don't eat a whole lot of eggplants, so I only have a few. These smaller ones right here are the ones I started from seed. They've been taking way too long. So I got this guy at the farmer's market from an heirloom seed provider. All of her plants are beautiful. And this one was larger, so I went with that. And then here I have a whole bunch of sweet peppers that I got at the greenhouse. So this one is gypsy, early summer, sweet banana, lilac, and then here is my seed that I got from a store-bought bell pepper and saved. So this is that orange bell pepper, or it was, that I pulled it from. Oregano here. I trimmed this back mostly for airflow around the plants. I had that dehydrating as well. Another nasturtium. Then I've got Pretty and Sweet. This is the king of the north bell pepper, so bred for northern climates, should be producing sooner than its friends. And then I think I had one California Wonder left that did not succumb to sadness, but I could be wrong. That might have just died. I've got more oregano here. Here I did peas as a spring crop. So I've got magnolia, sugar snap, purple snap beans. Those are good. And then I also started more cucamelons down here. So those are also starting to vine up. So that's another example of 2 crops in one space. The peas are considered a spring or a cool season crop. The cucamelons are considered a warm season crop. Often if I start them outside, by the time they are starting to fruit, my season's coming to a close. So I don't really get more than a handful or 2. So I'm excited to have them in the greenhouse and prolong that harvest. Back here with these interesting markings on the leaves is the black futsu squash. This one's going to be really neat looking. He's been twining up the twine just fine. When you see the pattern on all of the leaves, especially the mature leaves, these young ones less so, it's not a disease, it is the pattern of the leaf. It's that variety. So this is what I usually refer to as the main garden area. It's Got my little bird hotel, my bistro table. The northmost bed has all those brassicas that I planted. Got my little birdhouse, this neat little potager pattern. So let's talk about what's going on here. So on this side, the north side, this is the south, I've got some tomatoes that were gifts from a coworker. His wife grew a whole bunch of those that she had saved from seed in our area for several generations and swapped with some friends in our region. I've got another squash, nutter butternut. That's going to be delicious. So he's going to vine all the way up this and over and come down. On this side I've got some onions, a regular zucchini, which I think I saw, yeah, there's a baby fruit starting to form here. So I'll have some zucchini pretty soon. Probably more than I'm interested in, honestly. I've got another silver slicer there that is apparently doing really well. I kind of forgot that was there. Okay. I've got a little Pluto basil next to that. It ends up looking almost like a topiary bush when it gets big. It's really cool. Here I have some, I think you're oak leaf lettuce, aren't you? Yeah, Linux lettuce. He's an oak leaf type, so named because his leaves are like an oak leaf. Here I've got soybeans interplanted with some onions. This is a weed. Here I called a bit of a mulligan and I ran into a problem. So I put purple TP beans here on this side, and I neglected to understand that they were bush beans. So then I went ahead and seeded this with what was on my garden plan. So I'll have a little bit of both, which isn't the end of the world, but certainly a reminder that sometimes I made the plan for a reason. Sometimes you call a mulligan and it's a good thing, and sometimes you call a mulligan and you're like, poor choices. This is my little lemon tree. This is Minnie, who decided that now was her time. Hi, yep. I love you. You're very fluffy. So the citrus tree here is going to have to go in a pot. It will not survive in my zone, and it'll have to come inside, but that's fine. We're going to move on to, I should probably finish this bed. So on this side, I have corn. I've got some garlic, and then I've got some ground cherries. Those got whipped around in the wind a bit, so they might not be the happiest. More tomatoes, more corn in the back. Different kind of squash. Ooh, autumn frost. This one is so far the tallest because he's already leaning against his trellis. Next bed to the north, I did a different kind of squash. This is the spaghetti squash. I've got a whole bunch of different basils mixed in here. Some chard. And then another squash. This is the bush delicata. So this won't vine up, but it will, as described, make a bush. More onions here. And then I'm having some different luck with beans. So over here is Eclipse dry beans, and I've got some. And then here is Sunset Runner, and I don't see any popping up yet. I've still got time that I could seed some more, but wasn't in my initial plan. Those are the soybeans. This way are cherry tomatoes. So I've got some bumblebee cherries different basils, nasturtium, chard we already talked about. Then I've got blue cream cherries here, so I did 2 of each. Here I've got silver cloud dry beans, but I'm not having great germination there, so I'll probably start some in cells and transplant them out. So we said that we would talk about this. I've got white onions here. I've got a bunch of flowers, a bunch of different kinds. This is that Jasmine nicotina, so it's an ornamental nicotine plant. It's a tobacco plant. So, beautiful little trumpet. Ooh, his leaves do feel kind of tacky. I had seen a garden tour where a woman had mentioned that she uses that ornamental jasmine as a pest control. So the flower draws in the desired predatory insects, and the leaves are tacky enough that it's almost like a sticky trap for the non-desirable insects. And I think that's pretty cool. Moving towards the cole crops bed, I have another bean here that doesn't seem to be germinating. And then I've got blush cherry tomatoes. These are already starting. And then I've got Brad's Atomic Grape for these 2. Those I haven't tried before, but I've heard really good things about, so I'm excited to try those. So this side of the garden is cherry tomatoes. And then I had extra beefsteak sized tomatoes over there. And then I've got a different squash. So this is Long Island cheese. He's also starting to make friends with his trellis. And then I've got a couple different types of beans here. This should be another type of runner bean. And then I've got the black night bean over here. That one's super yellow. I might have watered. We have had splotches of rain, so that's quite possible. I just don't know yet. There's another one of those Pluto basils, really tiny. More onions. Here's another sowing of wonderberries. They do look like they've got some pest damage right now. It looks to me like flea beetles. I'm just giving that some time, see if the plants will pull through. Notice how this one looks similar, but it's not the same. It is a pretty common weed in my area. I don't know what kind of weed, just not desirable. More chard, both a yellow and a red. And then I'm pretty sure this is my Celtis. I really hope so. I'm very excited about that. That should be super good. Ooh, more spinach. So I'm hoping that the beans provide some shade for these cooler season things. Might work, might not. And then this is Violina rugosa squash. That's also just starting to get big enough to climb the trellis. Put some dill in here for some aromatic pest control, confusing the pests. And now we'll check out what's under cover here. So I have these crops under a 40% shade cloth because these are all cooler season crops. And suddenly this season we went from like balmy 60 to 70 degrees to 80s. Just real fast. Did not appreciate that. So we went from spring-ish to summer. And these are the crops that don't like that. I just weeded this bed. So some things are looking great and some are like, what did you do to me? So I have some kohlrabis, some pink celery, purple cabbages, some carrots started, radishes, blush onions. So these are going to be a pink color. I've got some basils started under there as well. That was more of an experiment that may or may not work. More kohlrabies here. Carrots. More kohlrabi. And this is a different kind of cabbage. This leaf is absolutely a weed. So this is the same style of leaf as morning glories, whereas this style of leaf is from the carrot family. This one is too tangled up in the carrots for me to pull. I did pull his root system though. Back there I've got more pink celery, more cabbages. I've got a marigold for pest control as well as dill. So this is largely the cole crops or brassicas. I've got some peas here as well. Those are too tall for this tent, but it is what it is. So we've covered the main garden area. You'll notice the comfrey has pretty much tripled in size. And let's see if we can find any bees. Oh yeah. There he is. What's up, little friend? Here's my weed pile. I'm letting that dry down so it's not an issue in my compost pile. I need to get more of the grass here, but it wasn't as big of an issue as the other beds. No sign of the mushroom that I put in on purpose here. I have seen undesirable mushrooms, which is unfortunate. Here, as well as in the main garden bed. So slightly disappointing. Early potatoes. Here's more of that weed. I have some cilantro that seeded itself, some lamb's ear. This is good as a bandage. You can dry it down and use it in medicinal things as well. This should be a good tea plant. It's lemon bee balm. Some garlic chives. Some thyme. These are Egyptian walking onions. So they're starting to form little seed pods that they will drop down into the soil and create new onions. And then I've got more chives. These are just starting to bloom, whereas the ones in the greenhouse are absolutely done. Under here, so not this big guy, but this guy, I've got anise hyssop. I lost the tag for this, and I have no idea what it is, so I'm kind of just waiting for it to do something. It might be coriander, but it might not be. And then I've got some grass. That's not supposed to be in there. Some yarrow. Purple coneflower or echinacea back here. Rosemary. Chamomile. Feverfew. This should be, yeah, holy basil. I've got a different type of yarrow here. Another blade of grass. More chamomile. So that's the herb circle. The potato bed has started, so the greenish color leaves should be the German butterball, and then the darker purple leaves are, I think it was blue Arondeck. I've got more comfrey and a photogenic dog. More pantry potatoes. So these sprouted. Rather than let them go to waste, I planted them instead. Behind here, this is the amaranth. This is Elena's Rojo. The leeks. Some soybeans. And then I've got some Celiosa and Gomphrena in here too, but I'm not sure how well those are germinating. I see some of them, but I'm not sure which is which anymore. And then over here, I think this is another little soybean. Marigolds. I don't think that watermelon seed ever germinated, so I'll probably take that off. More, I think, cilantro over here. Some chives that are flowering. Yeah, here's cilantro. And he's wanting to flower, so I'm going to tell him no. And we're going to use this in cooking if I want. I can use these, but over here I've got more self-seeded cilantro, so I'm not worried if this guy does bolt, there'll be more. Oh, this one is parsley. Similar, not the same. So this is curly parsley. So I've got both cilantro and parsley. And then this is more of that weed. So yeah, here's the kennel bed with the amaranth beginning to take shape with how stunning it's going to be. Potatoes. Things I need to clean. Here should be some flowers, including prairie smoke. So prairie smoke is there. I've got a coneflower, and then I've got another tobacco jasmine here. But other than that, this is garlic, as well as strawberries. See? There's a little strawberry. More strawberries are tucked in here. The plants, if not the fruit quite yet. And that brings us back around to the main garden bed. That was all of it. But I think the biggest changes are that the carrots I had in here that were seeded in October of last year, I've pulled out, and I ended up with like 3/4 of a gallon Ziploc bag full. So we'll have plenty of carrots this week for food, which is great. That's normally much sooner than I would have carrots. And then the biggest thing that I've taken away is I was so taken away by having such abundance under cover growing that I kind of lost track of the basic time flow for my zone outside, because this is such a new thing undercover, trying to I'm trying to learn everything I can about this, so I'm very focused on it, none of which is wrong, but it is something to consider. So I changed a big part of what I do. I put in the greenhouse, which has been really good, honestly. It's been really nice. Because I've been so focused on the things I'm learning about undercover growing, and kind of taken away by the sizable tomatoes I've got starting, and the fact that the things inside the greenhouse are a solid month ahead of where I would normally be. I kind of lost track of how much I had done outside. That, and I'm doing a normal full-time job during the week. I've got a part-time job during greenhouse season, and I've got this. So kind of just, I'm full. Like, my plate is full. There's a lot happening. So losing track of time, I think, is kind of understandable. I was just very focused on what I was trying to get done. I'm also trying to, in the midst of all of these things I'm trying to get done, I'm trying to ensure that I am taking time to sit and have my coffee and listen to the birds, that I'm taking time to read and rest, because if I don't take that time when I'm this busy, I won't have the energy to keep being busy. So even when your schedule's full of all these things that you love, it's still tiring. And so I want you to be able to understand that it's okay to give yourself some grace. May in Zone 4 is usually incredibly busy, and because May is about the time that you get to plant. And it's not usually until the end of June, early July that I remember seeing the plants just explode with growth. We've had such an intense heat wave of 80-degree days. I only get maybe 3 more months of this, and then it's usually cold weather time again. So I'm going to not complain, because I'm so grateful to be able to grow these warm season things. And soon, this coming weekend, in fact, I'll have to be starting some seeds for fall harvest. So I will be able to give you a look at how I'm planning that, how I know which seeds to start when, and how I'm considering both my outdoor and my indoor spaces for that plan. I'd mentioned earlier that I called a mulligan with some seeds where I placed them outside. That is really common. So I had shown you the garden journal that I use. It's not a hard and fast thing. There's a very fluid system here. So I have a plan. I have a recorded plan, and I have an actuality thing. Ooh, and that's a lacewing. Do you see him there? Lacewings and ladybugs are both considered predatory insects, which means that they are preying on the bugs that are not beneficial to your plants. So that means that the ladybugs and the lacewings are, in fact, beneficial insects. So you have beneficial and non-beneficial, or predatory being your beneficial ones. So seeing them in here is really satisfying, because it means that I am doing a good job having a diverse enough space that I'm not oversaturated with one type of pest, and the predators are coming in to take care of that pest. Oftentimes it can take several years for those predatory insects to follow up on an infestation. So if you're organic gardening or using organic methods, oftentimes it can be really frustrating, because you'll have a couple of years where it's difficult to get a good crop because of your pest pressure, and it's really tempting to use something that's going to be really fast. But if you leave it long enough, and usually plant more to account for the pest pressure, then basically the word gets out, and the predatory insects come in and they gobble up all of your pests. So that's what I'm working on doing here, and it's nice to see it paying off. Yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to keep a better track on my schedule, get things going, and get things out for you guys in a timely fashion. Thanks for waiting patiently. And if you don't see this until it's cold and dreary in your season, then know that good things are coming. And while May might be so busy that you are planting everything and behind on other aspects of your life, eventually June comes and you realize what's happened. Thanks for coming along with me in my Zone 4 garden. And I'll catch you next time. Stop. Look at her. She really wants my attention. Lacewings and ladybugs are both considered predatory insects. Stop. That's enough. Both Stop. You are so smelly. Why are you so smelly?